You're going to want to definitely be a part of this next portion. While you're all taking your seats, I want to make a quick mention. If you saw in the lobby, in the corner here, we have Jody Russell Photography doing headshots in the corner, right in the lobby on the other side. And today, for just $40, you can get your professional headshot with 5 digital high-resolution images. So keep that in mind as you are moving forward with your marketing materials. All right. Please take your seats. All right, we have another wonderful, amazing, inspiring story of a powerful woman. How many of you have watched any U of M Gopher basketball games? Raise your hand. Yes! Well, you are in the company of greatness today. We have with us Amanda Zahui, who is a former University of Minnesota Gopher basketball player and current WNBA player with the Tulsa Shock. Amanda, come on up here, hon. Just for a couple of minutes. For 20 seconds. Come on up. Oh, we're watching a video.
With the second pick in the 2015 WNBA draft, the Tulsa Shock select Amanda Zahui B from the University of Minnesota.
Well, she only played in college for 2 years, and she was able to accumulate 24 double-doubles and 2 triple-doubles. And this is a player that averages almost 19 points a game and 13 rebounds. A walking, for real, double-double.
Yeah, this is a player who is a presence on both ends of the floor. She can score inside, going right hand, left hand, has really good hands, good feet.
Yeah, woman! So, come on over here so everybody can see you, because you're amazing. And I'm not going to feel insecure at all. Amanda, was that just, seriously, tell me about that biggest moment of your entire life.
It was surreal. It didn't really hit me that she had called my name up until I walked down the step. And it's still very unreal.
I imagine. It's going to be really unreal when you're in the WNBA and everybody's going freaky deaky over you. Take pictures, will you please? Take pictures. Look. I'm next to a famous person. So here you are. You've been in Minnesota. Tell me what you think the Minnesota experience has meant to you.
It's been great. This is definitely home, in America. I learned so much about myself, and, I got good education, still studying, met some amazing people around me, so it's just been amazing. Good 3 years.
Well, we are nice here in Minnesota. You know that for sure. Now, I had an occasion to talk to Coach Pam yesterday, and she was telling me that when you turn into a super big wig, fancy pants sports celebrity, that usually one of the first things they do is they like to create foundations. They like to give back when they become superstars. Do you have any idea as to what you might want to do with that kind of foundation?
I want to open like a teen center-ish, more like a safe place for young people where they can come study, do sports, read, sleep, play video games, whatever they feel like doing, if they can't be at home or if they just want to get away for a couple hours, something like that.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I have some news for you about your foundation. There is an anonymous donor that has donated $1,000 to your new foundation to get it started.
Thank you.
Yes, whoever it is, thank you, thank you. Amanda, congratulations. You are one special lady. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
So now let's see. Can you still hear me? Excellent, excellent. I have just a few minutes with you. So when you guys all saw me doing my fancy pants hoop stuff there a couple of hours ago, how many of you thought those 4 words, I can't do that? Raise your hand if you thought, I can't do that, when you saw me doing some killer moves. Yeah? Well, I'll show you if you forgot. In case you're wondering, if you're like, wait a minute, I don't remember her doing any fancy pants moves. Now, I'm no spring chicken, but I got some moves, am I right? Yes? Now, how many of you thought, I can't do that? Now let's see the hands raise up. Here's a secret. Yes, you can. Every single day, I've hooped for 7 years. And every single day, no matter what, there is someone, male, female, young, old, who says to me, I can't do that when they see me hoop. Or they say a variation, which is, I used to be able to do that. And I tell them the very same thing that I'm going to tell you. Yes, you can. You just didn't have the right hoop. Most of you have been probably thinking about this. This horrible, wretched thing that should be outlawed with the mystery liquid in it. Now we're getting around barbecue time, right? We're going to be celebrating outside, grilling, having fun with our friends. And I bet you will see the kiddies playing with their toys, right? And everybody's having a good time, and you're having a great time with your friends, and you see the kids playing with a hula hoop, and you might be having a nice tea or two, getting kind of sassy. And you go over there and you think, I used to be able to hula hoop when I was a kid. You walk over, step on in it. Your girlfriend's going, go on, do it, it'll be fun. Clunk. Get a little more serious. Next time, you get up and you try it. Kaboom. You sadly and slowly step out of the hoop. Walk back to the old lady adult beverage portion of the party. I used to be able to do that, but now I'm too old or out of shape or uncoordinated or embarrassed or pickled. Something. But then you have forever decided that it's you. You're past your prime. Expiration date. All done, but the crying. Here's a hint. It really isn't you. It was the hoop. It was the hoop, ladies. This isn't meant for anybody to use, ever, ever, ever. I've done this for 7 years on a nearly daily basis, and I can't do it. I use a hoop, and by the way, this is my small hoop. I've got big hoops over there. Look at the difference. Big difference, right? Silly thing. When it's a bigger hoop, I can move easier. I can dance. I can express myself. We can go to happy hour. It'll be totally fine. I'll be doing this all day. But here's the reality. When you have the tools that you need, whether it's a plastic hula hoop, or it's a networking group, or it's a mentor, or it's a support structure, or it's an education, or it's a draft, whatever it is that is the tools that you need to be successful, then you can do what you want to do in your life. So make a promise to me today, please. The next time and forever forward, when you see a hula hoop, you will be reminded about this Team Women Minnesota event, and you will be reminded that the things that I previously thought that I cannot do, I absolutely can do when I have the right hoop. Can I get a witness, people? Hallelujah! Yes. Yes. I am so, so very pleased to be here today, and we are going to have, now, I don't know about you guys, but when I eat salad, I feel great and healthy and like, oh my God, I'm so good. And then I'm thinking, where's dessert? Well, guess what? Dessert is coming
sometime soon this afternoon, because we are going to have not one, not two, not three, but four amazing panelists that are going to be here, one of which is from Sweet Martha's, y'all! Each and every one of us are going to have a cookie later on, so just be aware. And now we are moving, look at this, right on track. I didn't even have to get my whistle blown. Now the next step on our journey is for me to introduce, as if by magic, Rachel Polson.
Yep, you got it.
Put it together, Rachel Polson. She's going to be talking to us about the Team Women Mentoring Program.
Thank you.
We are about to roll out our 6th group of mentors and mentees that we've had, which has been great since this organization has only been around since 2011. Can all of the people who have been either a current or past mentor or mentee please stand up so we can give you a round of applause? All these great women sharing their skills, their lives, their experiences with other women. Appreciate it a lot. There is still time for you to sign up to be a mentor or mentee for Team Women. The sign up is next Friday, and it's all online, the application process. Some of the benefits of our mentoring program is you get cross-generational mentoring. So don't think of it only as I'm the mentor, I'm an older person, and I'm not going to learn anything from my mentees. I know that when I was the mentor, I learned a lot from my mentee. It's great to bounce ideas off of, how do you interact with the younger generation? What should I do differently? The pairings are most likely to be with people in a different profession. So you have a lot of mentors at your work. So this is outside of your workplace, things that are different, people you might want to talk to something differently than your own employer. And we believe that having people outside of your different industries brings you a different perspective. Maybe it's a similar industry, but it brings you a different idea of something about how someone else does something different at their work. The cost is minimal. For mentors, we require them to be mentors or to be team members, so that's only $100. And if you think about that, that's the benefit of attending all of the Team Women type of events that we have. And for the mentees, the application is only $50. So that's a great investment for you to invest in yourself. Some of the feedback from the mentees, just from this last program that we had, is one mentee said, I've learned a great deal about myself and how to capitalize on that regarding my goals. Another mentee, I feel like she is just as excited about the things I am excited about, and that gives me energy. Another mentee said, I think the relationship has been mutually beneficial. She's been excellent as a mentor, and I think I'm getting a lot of my discussions with her. Another mentee, it has been a very positive experience to take some time to really think about my strengths and areas of opportunities. So right there, if you think about that as being a mentor, to know that that's how you impacted someone's life as a mentee, I think that gives you that own self-reward. The mentors, I have enjoyed my time with my mentee. It appears we both find our time together enjoyable and helpful. Another mentor, we have been able to meet regularly, and she comes ready with job-relevant questions and issues every time. I feel I am able to make an impact. So as Amy made the comments when she was talking about it, how important it is to have a mentor, please think about signing up for the program. There is information in the back, and I'll be back there if there's questions. The kickoff will be June 10th. The evening, it'll be here 4:30 to 6:30 if you are paired with a mentor or mentee. And the deadline is next Friday, so please think about it.
I get the fun part where I get to give out awards because everybody likes a trophy, correct? This is the second year for the Team Women Minnesota Leader of the Year Award. This award goes to someone who exemplifies every single day, every minute, 24 hours a day, and 365 days a year. She's always on. She always has to be on. She endures pressure, stress, and is a highly public scrutinized role and position. Janae is a 28-year-old 28-year vet of the Minneapolis Police Department, 28-year-old, and the first female police chief in Minneapolis history. She's funny. She has a great character. She's spoke at our conference for the last 2 years. Values and integrity, and is one that has sacrificed a lot for this community and the people here. Her 3 words, if you follow her on Twitter, she uses on her Twitter account, really says it all. Commitment, integrity, transparency. And I'm honored to be going on the Inca Trail hike with her with a Smile Network this summer, and someone I can call my friend. Congratulations to our Chief of Police, Janae Hurteau.
Of course, first, thank you. Your words were amazing. When I walked in the door, I heard about nipples, and I thought, God, could I get a job like that? I will just say I've been truly blessed in my life. Those of you who've heard me speak know it hasn't been out without bumps along the way, but those are character building, and I embrace them. But I am blessed to have many wonderful people around me at home, in my profession, and certainly in my network, many of you in this room. So I stand here today because of all of you. Thank you very much.
Our next award is the first year for this award is the Team Women Minnesota Member of the Year Award. This award goes to somebody who exemplifies our mission and values. There were many people who we thought deserved this award this year, but this individual really stood out. She's a great ambassador. She's been a mentee. She's on our Young Professionals Advisory Board and is on the executive leadership team on that board. She's been with this organization from the very beginning and very involved. Personal and professional development is very important to her and one of her goals. We are very fortunate to have Alyssa as part of our organization. She, along with others, will be our future. Congratulations, Alicia Johnson.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity to be part of this organization. I have been surrounded by strong women my entire life, from my mothers to having really great friends, some of which are in this room today. And it's great to have, as a young professional, it's really good to have multiple networks of women, and I'm really humbled by this. So thank you.
We'd also like to take this time to honor 2 board members who will be going off the board this year. We'd like to recognize them for their commitment, their vision, and service to this organization. Diana Vance Bryan, and she has a very, very, very long title, so I cut it short, I'm sorry. Chief Administrative Officer at Catholic Charities. Diana's been a great friend and a major contributor to this organization. Her experience in board governance, tightening up our articles and bylaws, was instrumental. She's also instrumental in our mentoring committee and selection and the matching process. Her knowledge and experience and contributions will be missed. She's not going far because I know where you live and I know where you work. We'll still see her at our events as well, and she's also on my speed dial. So thank you, Diana.
We have one more to do, and then we'll get it right. There. lot of my success is attributable to surrounding myself with great friends, great mentors, and others within Team Women. So for that, I'm thankful. It's also attributable to knowing when to keep my remarks brief. So I will just say thank you, because I know there's one more, and then Sweet Martha's cookies.
Linda Hopkins, Senior Attorney in Technology, Compliance, and Data Privacy. Linda's been part of Team Women since day one. Linda's a co-founder of Team Women, and we all thank her for having the vision and having an organization like this in the Twin Cities. Her experience as a talented attorney propelled us out of the gates and established us as a 501c3. Her passion for empowering women has resulted in being an integral part of our growth and in filling this room today. Thank you so much, Linda.
I don't want to get in the way of Sweet Martha's cookies, but so I'll keep this brief. I would like to thank all the other members of the board who have dedicated their precious spare time and energy to making this organization the great, worthwhile organization it is today. I really want to thank Pam Borton in particular for having confidence in me and my vision for this organization, because without her energy and skill, it wouldn't be as great as it is. And since we're sharing personal stories, I thought that there was one that was pretty apropos. Now, I'm a little bit older than some of you here. In fact, I like to think of myself as a fine antique. When I was undergraduate and getting out of college, majoring in poli-sci and business, I was eager to get out into the workforce, just like our speaker, Amy, earlier today. And I answered an ad in the paper. Well, that's when ads were in the paper. And they were looking for someone to fill a position of assistant city manager. And I thought, I can do that. I can attend meetings and make reports and talk to people. So I applied, and I got an interview. Oh boy, oh joy. I waltzed down to the office. I think I might have to take this mic out. I waltzed down to the office, and I was in there, and there's nobody in the office. And 10, 15 minutes go by, and the door opens, and this man comes in. And he says, well, you applied for the position. Is that right? Yes, yes. And he said, did you graduate? Oh, yes. Were you in a sorority? No. Do you like football? No. And it went on at some length like this. And finally I said to him, you're not asking me anything about the job. He says, oh, I just wanted to see what kind of a woman would apply for a job like this. Now, I'm not saying this is true for today. Remember, I'm a fine antique. But I can answer that question today. What would a woman look like that would apply for a good professional job today? It would look like you. And you, and you, and you, and you. And we're going to go out and we're going to get them. Thank you.
Congratulations, congratulations. We are going to have just 2 minutes of rapid fire reorganization. So we're going to get our panelists going. So Amy, if you want to move forward, we're going to get all of our seats in line here. This is like my house. There's crap everywhere. I go to work to escape it, darn it. Okay. We're going to scooch it on over. Make a little circle, semicircle. Okay. Pardon? I was planning on sitting, actually. I'm wearing sitting shoes. That's what my mom used to call them. Shoes that are real pretty, but you can't walk in them for a very short period of time. She'd call them sitting shoes. You can hoop in them. That's true. Okay, look at that. I think we're good, right? And I've got my microphones. All right, so I am going to introduce 4 amazing women. I'm going to put my little thing here. My daughter calls me a putterer. She goes, "You putter around all the time, Mom. Will you stop doing that?" My microphones are right there. I'm going to bring up every woman one at a time so we can really give a chance to. Look at this. I'm like Bozo the Clown. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Well-oiled machine right here. Speaking of well-oiled machine, how many of you go to the Minnesota Great Get-Together, the big get-together in August, right? When's first place you want to go? Sweet Martha's Cookies. I didn't realize you were supposed to share. Like it was a family thing? I didn't get that the first 2 years I went. I would like to bring up Martha Rossini Olson. Please put your hands together for Martha. You can just go to the last spot. Martha is a St. Paul native, has been selling her oven-hot, baked on-the-spot chocolate chip cookies for over 30 years. Along with her partners, husband Gary Olson, lifelong friend Neil O'Leary, and his wife Brenda, Martha created a sweet treat that has not only reached its height of success at the Minnesota State Fair, but also has spread to homes statewide through its popular frozen cookie dough sold in grocers' freezers. Martha, a former elementary art teacher, claims the idea of cookies was partly luck. Excuse me. Beginning their entrepreneurship in the late 1970s with a yogurt shop in downtown Minneapolis, Martha, Gary, and Neil recognized the popularity of cookies through the sales of famous Amos cookies. Though they had applied to the state fair to sell frozen yogurt, they did not get in until they asked to open a chocolate chip cookie stand. That was over 30 years ago, and no one had thought of a similar idea. The first 9 by 11-foot booth soon turned into 2 small buildings, each holding over 6 large Baxter ovens to constantly cook the thousands upon thousands of miniature cookies. Sweet Martha's Cookie Jar has built their reputation on word-of-mouth recommendation, as well as appearing at other events such as the Minnesota Street Rod Show. As Martha says, "Some say our cookies taste better than Mom's." Well, I would agree. Please welcome Martha Rossini Olson. And our next esteemed panelist, number 2. And we are live from New York. Seeing red dots. Dr. Jess Prischmann graduated from Boston University in 2005 with a BS in journalism at 19 years old. Did you all hear that? Boston University, 19 years old. She then moved back to her hometown of Shreveport, Louisiana to attend medical school at Louisiana State University. During her time at LSU, she worked as a part-time television reporter for the local NBC affiliate. In 2005, Dr. Prischmann graduated at the top of her class and began her residency in head and neck surgery at the Mayo Clinic. In 2010, she was selected for a prestigious fellowship in facial plastic and reconstructive surgery in Indianapolis. The following year, Dr. Prischmann received the highest score in the country on the American Board of Facial Plastic and Reconstructive Surgery exam, which I'm thinking there were probably some smarties in that group. This was all before the age of 30. Think about what you were doing before 30. In 2012, Dr. Prischmann established her own practice in facial plastic surgery in Edina. In addition to her role as a facial plastic surgeon, Dr. Prischmann is proud to volunteer at a primary care clinic for uninsured patients in Shakopee. She is also a regular medical contributor for WCCO TV. Her fan club includes her husband Matt, a German short-haired pointer named Remington, and an English bulldog named Boudreaux. Please put your hands together for Dr. Jess Prischmann. I don't know if this one's going to work. Yeah. Thank you. Have a seat. Next, Kate Bolseth is an innovative technology executive with 20 years of experience helping launch and transform businesses. Her passion is around building and growing companies through a combination of organic growth and mergers and acquisitions. Bolseth has a successful track record leading global operations across professional services, customer support, maintenance, logistics, product strategy, and development. In her role as CEO of Jingit, Bolseth is challenged with transforming the organization from its technology startup roots through market launch and scale. Jingit, a Minneapolis-based startup, sits at the intersection of commerce and advertising. The company's mission is to substantially improve marketing incentive programs, powering consumer loyalty and purchasing, using real currency in commerce transactions in real time. Prior to joining Jingit, Bolseth was Chief Operating Officer for Global Solutions at Amcom Software, I need a cookie. A subsidiary of USA Mobility Wireless, where she oversaw $200 million in annual revenue. Please welcome Kate Bolseth. There you go. I know there's something magical to these microphones that I'm sure we'll figure out when the time is right. And last but not least, Jearlyn Steele. Jearlyn is a member of the international acclaim family, the Steeles, who have performed from Brazil to Broadway. For 5 years, she has been an entertainment reporter for Twin Cities Public Television's award-winning Almanac. Being a motivational speaker and facilitator for nonprofits has quickly become an important part of her entertainment portfolio. And maintaining her Sunday night radio show entitled Steele Talkin' on WCCO Radio 8:30 a.m. for more than 15 years has been a joy. She has recorded a duet with one of America's superstars, Prince. And has performed with the Minnesota and Baltimore Symphony Orchestras. She is a frequent special guest on the acclaimed radio broadcast of A Prairie Home Companion. Garrison Keillor doesn't quite elicit the same response in me as Prince does, where she has performed with music greats Carole King and Elvis Costello. Her role in the Robert Altman movie of the same name, starring Garrison Keillor, brought her into the great company of Meryl Streep, Kevin Kline, Tommy Lee Jones, and Lily Tomlin. Jearlyn is a mother of two and is currently attending graduate school at St. Catherine University in St. Paul, Minnesota. She is a member of SAG-AFTRA, the Screen Actors Guild, and American Federation of Television and Radio Artists. Put your hands together for Jearlyn Steele. There you go, lovely.
Thank you, honey.
I am so...
And thank God I got the chair without the wheels. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, nobody leaned back too far. Okay, here we go. Whew! So all these mics are going to be on for all these lovely ladies to speak, right? Okay, excellent. I feel like I know all of you. It's so exciting. The best part of this job was to get to talk to all of these women, to get to know them and find out their stories and their challenges and their struggles. And so what we're trying to do here now is this is like a big old coffee shop coffee clatch right now with 370 of us hanging around. Because if you had an opportunity to talk to these amazing women, I know I'm trying to ask the same questions that you would ask of them. So we're really going to look at three different aspects of this discussion. We're going to look at inspirations and motivations. We're going to look at some of the challenges that they've all faced as leaders. And then we're going to look at how to move forward for women in leadership in the coming future. Okay? Does that sound good to everybody? Okay. So let's just start with Martha. So you started out as a teacher, but then all of a sudden now you're like this hardcore entrepreneur that is an institution in this town. So who has been really instrumental in forming you in this new reality of being a businesswoman, hardcore businesswoman?
Well, I think it's a lot of flexibility because I had no idea that my life would turn as it did. Years ago when I was teaching, a friend of ours recommended frozen yogurt, which was sort of the first time in 1978 that it was being introduced in the country. So we sort of grabbed a hold of that idea. And then from there, selling Famous Amos cookies, we were applying to the fair with yogurt, and we thought, what the heck? We were selling Famous Amos cookies there, and we saw at the time how popular they were. And again, I'm sort of in that antique age that we were talking about earlier. And back then, the only cookie that was offered in the grocery stores was something that we called store-bought cookies. Mm-hmm. And the other cookies were those that your mom made at home. So because of that concept, the idea that Famous Amos was making a cookie that was very similar to what our moms made at home using the best ingredients, and store-bought cookies are more, and they're still there, and they're great staples. It's like Oreo cookies and vanilla wafers. Those type of cookies you could buy in the grocery stores. So this idea of homemade cookie was actually quite novel at the time in the late 70s. So we had applied, like I said, to the fair for the frozen yogurt, and they didn't accept us because they already had a yogurt in the fair. So we started applying for the cookies. And after a few years of that application, about 3 weeks before the fair started, I got a call down at the frozen yogurt shop, which was down on 7th and Hennepin, which, of course, Block E was about ready to be developed in 1978, and you know how long that took. But anyway, so they called and they said, "Do you want to be in the fair, Martha?" And I said, "Well, that would be wonderful. Yes, of course we would." And of course, I'm thinking yogurt all the way through because I knew that like the back of my hand. And then they said, "Well, we'd like you to bring your cookies, your chocolate chip cookies." And I went, "Oh, of course we could." And hang up the phone and just go, now what are we going to do? So we, in the 3 weeks, and again, it's youth, you know, it was before I had children and had a lot more time at those early years. We madly put together our recipe, sort of combining our mom's recipe with Neil and Gary and I, and built the booth in the backyard, a little boulevard stand, and I was working on the recipe, and that's how we started. So.
And you built that business really only, I mean, it primarily was 2 weeks a year.
Absolutely.
Right?
But there are a lot of advantages to that because
yeah,
there are.
Sign me up.
Yeah. Because you actually have, I mean, you're in business for 12 days, and then you have that time before the next year to figure out what you did wrong, what you want to change, what your personnel is, what you need, what equipment, so on and so forth. You have all that time to prepare for the next year. So it's really was wonderful, and that's what we did. And all the money that we made those first years, we just put right back into all buying equipment. The first year we rented everything, you know, and every year we just kept putting the money back into the equipment and to what we needed, and then just kept trying to, you know, propel the business from there.
So you had a job where you were working all the time except for the summer, and then you got a job where you just worked at the end of the summer. And
Absolutely, yes.
Smart. smart.
And I have to say, very understanding principals. So, you know, teachers have workshop. So they understood what I was doing. I would come in early, being an art teacher, get everything all set to go. And those first years, for years, I did teach the first day of school, where that was difficult after working the 12 days of the fair.
Oh,
but I always go youth, you know, youth. I could do it back then. Excuse me, fighting a little laryngitis here, but I could do it back then, but could not foresee me doing this now.
Right,
but
right.
yeah.
Well, sometimes we don't even know what we can do until we're thrown right in the middle of it. Right. You know, and you brought up something interesting that leads me to wanting to hand it over to Jess. We talked a lot about your business, and I'd love for you to share what your principles were about. Don't reinvent the wheel when it came to running your business, and what you learned from the greatest business teacher you had. Do you remember you and I talked about your mom?
Oh,
Dr. Jess?
yeah.
Yes.
I've got
Yep,
the same.
I'm sorry.
Yes,
Hand
go
over to
ahead.
Jess.
I don't exactly know
So
what you're referring to.
you were talking about what you learned early on from your mom.
Well, I'm the product of an immigrant family, so I think as a first-generation American, we see our parents come over here and work, you know, more 80-plus hour weeks, and they do it so that we can have an education, so that we can make something of ourselves. Because I could have been born the daughter of a dishwasher, because that's what my great-great-grandmother was, and in India, what you're born into is what, unfortunately, you may become, and it's very hard to break out of that cycle, and I was aware of that from a very young age, and so I knew that I had one shot. I was here, I was going to work very hard, and that, for me, education was the way that I was going to achieve what I wanted to achieve. So being the daughter of an immigrant certainly helped, and I saw how hard she worked as a small business owner. She kept her overhead low because she didn't have anybody to pay because she did everything herself.
Right.
And so that was one principle. And she also told me that people can tell you ultimately that you're smart, but you really didn't earn that. That my grandfather's pretty smart, so hopefully that geneticness passed on to me, or they can say that you're pretty and you didn't really earn that. That's also genetic, that's the way you're born. But if they say to me, Jess, you are a good person, that you should feel very grateful and thank them because you earned that. And that's what I feel very proud of, that I listen to what other people say. I try to incorporate that in my life, and I try to keep my overhead low as a business person, but I invest in people. You know, like I don't invest in my phone bill, but I invest in the person sitting at my front desk, and I try to do the best I can every day.
Yeah. And I just want to follow up so people can understand. When Jess is being very humble when it comes to her mother and the businesses that she's run, please just kind of give us a little sense of what exactly did your, let's see, Kate is your mom's name, right? What kind of businesses did she run when you were growing up?
So she first had a 7-Eleven, and I was born on 7-Eleven, so I always say people got Slurpees the day I was born. And so she had a 7-Eleven, she had a liquor store, and she then bought a grocery store. She had no business training whatsoever. Bought a restaurant, and now we have a marina with 23 cabins and a bar restaurant in the middle of nowhere, Louisiana. And she, when she moved out there and took over that business, people would say to her, you don't look like everybody else. And she would say, I'm Indian. And they would say, oh, Navajo? And she would say, yeah, that's, because they wouldn't, there was like no,
yeah.
So, whatever. And, she's a very good-natured, sweet woman, but she doesn't take any crap from anybody, and she believes very strongly in herself, and I think you need all of those qualities, and at the end of the day, if you treat people well, that you'll be successful. And keep your overhead low. Make smart business decisions.
I was really struck in the conversation that I had with Jess that she is, obviously wildly talented and amazingly smart for the things that she has accomplished. Graduating high school at 15 it's kind of hard to get your head around that. show up at high school in 15. But she's just an incredibly astute businesswoman. You said that you didn't pay yourself for the first 2 years and that you are just all about making sure that you understand the aspects of what makes a successful business.
Yeah, so, my microphone. I guess business, in my mind, is the money that comes in and the money that goes out. And so fortunately, when you are a resident, you work like 120 hours a week and you get paid nothing. So as soon as I started my own business, I just thought, well, I'm just going to pay myself like I would have, paid to be a resident, and then just put everything back in. And so even now, when I have a good month, I pay the people that work in my practice first before I pay myself, and that makes me feel good, and I also helps reinforce to me what really matters, which is that there's good energy around me and good energy in my practice, and we're taking care of people, and none of that has anything to do with whether I can buy that Tesla or whatever, or those Chanel ballet flats, which I desire.
Thank you very much. Jearlyn, my dear. So who was instrumental in your development, in your path in success?
Well, Kate was responsible for me sitting in a chair without wheels, so I just want to say thank you to you, because I only see myself sliding off of this stage. But instrumental in my life, first of all, my mother is my shero, and really she is the woman who walked the talk. You have a lot of people in your life that will tell you what you can do and what you should do. But those that can actually live that example is a whole nother ballgame. And it was quite a journey for her. So she was instrumental in that, as well as teachers. There was a teacher at high school named Bessie Tatum who could have retired. My parents had 6 children, and she could have retired after the 3rd child that she taught music theory to. But she thought that we had something exceptional and decided to teach all 6 of us. So can you imagine how long she had to stay in the public school system before she was able to retire? And we are really grateful, because without her tutelage, without being under her care, I would have been a completely different person.
That's great. And with you and your reach that you have publicly, I'm sure that there are times when you are surprised at how your impact has been made on other people that you don't even know about, because there are so many people listening to you and watching you on stages. And is there any story that comes to mind of someone who has come up to you or someone that has contacted you about the impact that you've made to them, or the experiences that they've had as a result of hearing you, watching you perform, anything like that at all that you want to share?
Wow. I think the most important message that I've received most often are those that will come and say, "You affected me today." And really think on that, because we have a choice when we walk out the door to either infect or affect. And many of us are infected by our experiences, our past, you name it. And so I just try to wake up every day wanting to really make an impact and affect people in a positive way instead of changing their lives in a different way.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And Kate, let's talk about you and what drives you on a daily basis. You have such an impressive background, and you have grown into, you had if I remember, a major in computer science, minor in sociology. So you started in technology, but then you morphed that into and grew into product, into business, and then ultimately into executive leadership. What drives you through that process of starting as kind of a technology person into being a leader?
Sure. Is this on? Oh, all right.
We're going to do musical microphones.
We're sharing up here. So what I would say is, for me, it's about empowering other people. And so I was driven in the very early years of my career to solve problems and to accomplish things myself. And then I realized that It isn't about what you accomplish, it's about what you enable others to accomplish. And so it really, I shifted probably about 15 years ago and really started focusing on helping other people achieve what they are capable of achieving and recognizing your own accomplishments through what they're able to bring to the table. And so it was, it's interesting when you come from a development background, you literally at the end of every day measure yourself by what you actually singularly produced. And so it was I've got a problem, I'm gonna solve a problem, I've got a problem, I'm gonna solve a problem. Very tangible, you get immediate gratification. And really shifting that into still solving problems, but it's really about working with people, helping them understand the challenges that they are facing, and then giving them the tools to actually go out and solve the problems for themselves. And so you have to abstract your own sense of accomplishment from that and really see that in others, but that's really kind of what I derive my satisfaction from today.
And so seeing it move out into
really manifest itself through other people.
Yeah. And but you were talking about that challenge that you experience with that. Let's talk about, each one of you has so many things on your plates to do, and to, people that are within your purview to manage and to be responsible for. You're talking about paying your employees, and people you work with, and there's organizations that are around you that you're leading. What are the challenges, the really serious at the end of the night, put your head on, scrape the face off, go to bed place? What is the thing that you're working through right now?
So I work for a startup, and so for me, it's honestly keeping the lights on and getting to a point of revenue. So you're kind of at the basal need level at this point in regards to, hey, we're trying to take something that is great in concept and idea and find how to monetize that and how to actually create that demand and move through, our first initial sales and then to a point of scale. And so literally every night at the end of the day, it's how do we get business the next day?
And so how are you not turning into a crazy lady?
So I exercise a lot. I think that actually brings up a really good point about balance. And so one of the things that I really struggled with, honestly, and it's funny because I didn't see it as a struggle earlier in my career, is I drove myself incredibly hard. And I allowed work to be the focal point and really, quite honestly, the measure of who I was and my success. Like when I looked in the mirror, it was about my work accomplishments. And really what I figured out is life is about having kind of that holistic approach and really having different elements of your life where you're deriving that sense of self-worth and really ensuring that you're finding those things across multiple different areas and planes.
Okay, good. Now that's an important enough question that I'd like to hear from all the panelists. So Jearlyn, what do you do? What are you struggling with? What's the challenge? I don't want to say struggling with. What's that biggest challenge that you're dealing with right now, and how are you attempting to address it?
Exercise. So you exercise every day?
Darn near.
You exercise every day?
Darn near.
I do not. So that's a challenge. And by the way, you are responsible for at least 5 pounds.
I'm so sorry.
I just need you to know that.
Sorry.
Okay. I have things to say to like, can you do something about that?
Yeah, I know.
So I would say it's an opportunity versus a challenge.
Oh, it's an opportunity?
It's an opportunity.
Oh, please. That's my challenge, darling. Seriously, because when you exercise, it really, I read about all of the top CEOs in the country, both women and men. And the one common denominator was that they get up early in the morning, usually between 4 and 5 in the morning, and they exercise. It clears their head. Clears your head, right?
It does.
Yeah.
So does not clear my head. I've tried that. I had a cookie afterwards.
Thank you.
But it really is. It is a challenge, and it's one of the things I have on my list of things to get right, to finally get it right when your mind, soul, and body is completely in sync. I've got some work to do.
But what about when we talked, we shared a little bit about impatience and kind of that wanting to have it now, waiting for that clarity.
Clarity is so important for me. I realized once that I was not moving forward because my mantra was wrong. I used to say things like, I want to work less and make more. The problem in that is there wasn't any joy in it, right? And so we talked about peace and joy this morning and really enjoying your journey. And I finally figured out that I had to do what I was put here to do, whether I make money at it or not. But thank goodness that we get a chance to make money at what we do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You talked about, I want to share good idea versus God idea.
Good idea versus God idea. It was a good idea. When I first moved to Minnesota, I had no idea I would be a professional singer or an actor or a television entertainment reporter in all of my big, beautiful self, right? I had no idea that I would move forward and go to grad school and so many other things. But I realized that there are good ideas, and those good ideas are what I heard Steve Harvey say, those are the things that you're paid for. But my God ideas are the ones that I am made for.
I love that. I love that. I've been using that myself personally. Jess, let's talk about challenges because I can't even imagine. It couldn't have been easy, that whole thing that you've done, and just made me tired just reading your bio. But you talked about what that experience is like with this kind of the stress that is happening in running a business and everything, and how humility plays a part in it, and what you learned in school.
Yeah, well, I've repeatedly put myself in uncomfortable professional situations my entire life. I've always wanted to do something hard, I don't even know if I consciously knew I wanted to, but I did. And even though I may have not have been the best at it, but at least I learned something from it. And I think it all kind of came to a head when I started at the Mayo Clinic. And nobody goes to the Mayo Clinic and is there and is a surgeon. You're made into a surgeon. And one of the things that happens is, to a degree, they break you down and then build you back up. And there were so many days where people consistently told you what you did wrong and how awful you were. And you felt awful because you were seeing these brilliant surgeons operate, and then they were putting an instrument in your hand and you were like fumbling with it and thinking, this is what I want to be, this is what I want to do, and it's not happening for me. And no one ever told you, oh, but your hair looks good today, or something good, anything good, or oh, you made that patient feel really good about themselves. And the first thing I had to realize was that every time I felt that burning embarrassment or whatever that horrible feeling is that makes you want to go and sit in a corner, I had to redirect myself and say, okay, I'm learning something right now. I'm learning something big, and it's going to make me better, stronger, faster. And I distinctly remember getting to a point where I felt to myself, okay, I'm going to be better than every other surgeon in my class. I'm going to do that by being in the anatomy lab. I'm going to do that by being in every extra case that I can. And I'm going to do that because I'm not part of their fraternity, because I'm not a guy. And it is a fraternity, and that's okay, because it's all a bunch of dudes hanging out and operating, and that's fine, and whatever, that's great. And so that's what I did. And by the end of it, I was getting the highest scores in all the exams and excelling and all that stuff. And the day that I graduated, my program director stood up and said that Jess Prischmann is one of the best surgeons we've ever trained. And my tears started streaming down my face. screaming down my face. I couldn't even control myself. I was sobbing inconsolably, and I thought, why didn't I believe that? Why did I go through this whole process? And I, every day, thought I was trying and trying and trying so that I could be, and then here's this guy telling me I was one of the best surgeons he'd ever trained. Why did I need him to say that? And I think as women, we kind of do that because we grow up our whole lives and people tell us, oh, you did so good, and oh, that was so great, and all of a sudden you don't have that, and what's the first thing that you think to yourself? Oh, I'm not good enough. What's wrong with me? And I think that's the opportunity that you have to say, okay, all right, Jess, I am going to be good enough. I'm going to be better than all of you, and I'm going to buckle down, and I'm going to study harder. I'm going to be stronger, and then you will be, and then when they say it, you don't need them to say it. You just need to know. Mm-hmm. So anyway,
yeah,
kind of rambling.
And this beautiful young woman is the same woman who said to me when I spoke with her, before I drilled a screw into someone's face, I never held a power tool in my life. So, you tend to perk up when somebody says that. Martha, I'd love to hear from you a little bit about your challenges. What kind of challenges are you facing in your business, and what are you, or your personal life, and what are you doing to address them?
Well, when I hear so many of these people speaking like your speech right there, I just remember the late 70s, how I was like so, people thought I was so amazing because I was a woman. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And I hear some of these same stories still now, and I'm like, dang it, what the heck, I just can't believe that we're still facing some of these same issues that I was facing in 1979. Because when I first was, the leader of our little cookie pack, I was dealing 100% with men, and especially where I was involved with the equipment and having to know how ovens ran, because it was our livelihood. When an oven went down, when the power went out, it was you're out of business. And so many times in those early days at the fair, and that's why they've throughout the years been putting so much money into the infrastructure at the fair, is because so many of those things had been ignored forever, with the wiring going from tree to tree rather than the flagpoles and things like that. But anyway, so I needed to know and to be able to, understand how everything worked, because like I said, when you're, out of those things, you're out of business. So I found one of my challenges was, again, being able to be taken for what I was with the men at the fair or wherever it seemed to be. And like I say, I just thought that was 36 years ago, and we're still facing so many of those same issues, And I just wish I wasn't hearing that, I guess.
But I guess another question to I totally agree with you, and you don't want to get my knickers in a twist.
Right, I know. Don't get me started.
But when you first started, Martha, would you have seen 370 women at the Golden Valley Country Club that are all women in business?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely
So
not.
we
So
are
congratulations to all of you.
Yeah, we are making a difference.
Yeah.
So looking back in your career, what were some of the things that you wish you would have known back then, or that would have made it easier or made it smoother in any time? What has time taught you?
Well, I guess to be a lot more mellow and to try and not be so hard on yourself. And I'm always striving for perfection, and I have found that it's, especially in these years where it's just so nice to listen to all of your key people and take in and let them run the show. With my guidance because of my experience. I know so many of, obviously, the pitfalls and so on and so forth, but I've really enjoyed working with their ideas and their talents, and I think that's really been a key to our success, is just getting these fabulous people. So many of these people have worked for me since day one, and it's just been a wonderful growing experience to take in all their suggestions. I try and work every suggestion that they give me, give it a try, unless I have a reason that I knew it wouldn't work because maybe it didn't work 20 years ago and they don't know that, you know. So, but I've just thoroughly enjoyed working with the people and using their talents. I mean, it's just been such a great thing to help our business grow. And there are so many, and again, these are the people that know because they're in the trenches. We hire about 450 people for the 12 days at the fair. And I have, a team of managers. We have a good 30, 35 managers because, of course, we're open many times from 5 in the morning till like 12:30, when the grandstand gets out. So we have a lot of hours to cover. So I need a lot of people to work with us and help guide all the younger new workers along. So it's, to me, such an important resource is our talented managers that work for me.
How many cookies do you make during a single season at the state fair?
Well, we think that, it's probably an average of at least 1 million a day.
Oh my God.
So we end up, our high production, when you see those crowds out there, we're making about 24,000 cookies in 12 minutes. So, when I first had to say those facts, I go, are you sure that's right? And sort of go back and figure, oh yeah, golly, it is. It's like 24,000 cookies in 12 minutes. So, wow. But we are working on getting another oven, and we're constantly working on our production to try and be able to produce more.
That is fantastic. Wowee. Jess, let's talk a little bit about your, when you look back at your career, and I know it seems, at least it seems to me, and maybe it seems to a few of you, that it looks like you are, poly-perfect. You are so amazing. Like, scratch your eyes out amazing. So tell me, what's not perfect? No, tell me what are some of the things that you've learned that maybe you think could have made things easier, better, more successful for you now that you're seeing some more time between when you first started your business and now, or even just when you've graduated from medical school. What are you learning as you're going through this that you're going, I should have known that. I should have known that as a businesswoman?
I think the most important thing that I am learning is that you spend so much time putting effort towards your education, and then you spend so much time exercising so that you can see an effort towards your body and that sort of thing. But you really need to put a lot of effort into your mind. Like, you really need to get your mind right. And I spend time every day getting my mind right, and that helps me immensely because all of those fundamental things I've done with my education and that I've done otherwise are paying off, and I don't worry. God's listening right now. I don't worry so much about my business anymore. It's kind of it's in a self-sustaining mode, which is really great. I'm very grateful, but there's a lot of stress. We all have stress. God, life is hard, and I spend time every day getting my mind right, and you really do have to. So for me, it's meditation. For my husband, he likes to sit in a tree. He likes to sit. He doesn't really shoot deer that much anymore, but he likes to sit in a tree and whatever that is, or float down a river, fly fishing or something like that. But
you said something when you and I spoke on the phone that I loved, and it's stuck with me. You indulge only in happy thoughts.
Yes, I do. So I am not the person that watches Forensic Files as I go to bed at night. I'm not the person that will watch that sad movie. I think your brain does upregulate some neurotransmitters if you are a negative person, those neurotransmitters in your brain get upregulated, and so you seek out negative thoughts. And so I try to focus on the serotonin in my brain and those positive thoughts so that I upregulate my serotonin receptors so I don't have to be on Prozac. So not that there's anything wrong with that, but
Yep.
it's my own internal Prozac, I guess.
Excellent. And Jearlyn, how do you upregulate your serotonin inhibitors?
His name is.
Yeah.
Oh, how I wish. That's such a lie. You know, for me, it's a spiritual walk. You know, I really have a strong spiritual walk. Not religious, but a very strong spiritual walk. I do believe in some meditation, and I love the exercise we did this morning of touching our bottoms and realizing, and, you know, the whole, you know, peeing, meing thing. I did. I enjoyed that. So for me, there are real challenges to make time and make room, and I loved hearing about how Oprah, you know, makes that time for herself. And you hear about these little tools that so many of the celebrities and top CEOs and managers and successful women, successful mothers, what we do to be successful. And I take a little something from everyone. My father said to me, he was killed by a drunk driver when I was 14 years old, and I was able to glean such wisdom from him in those 14 years. And I remember him saying, Jearlyn, no matter what, you can learn from every person you encounter. I don't care if it's an alcoholic, or at the time they used to call them winos. He said, it doesn't matter. You can learn either how to be or how not to be. And so at the end of every day, I take stock in what I have ingested. Now it's time to digest it. And I said to a friend recently, it's all about whatever you take in will make sure that you expand, whether it is Sweet Martha's cookies or whether it is an incredible book. Each moment I am in someone's presence, I get to either purchase through school a piece of their brain trust, or I get a chance to ask and receive from someone who just wants to share something with me. Throw the fat away and keep the lean of it all, because that is who you are becoming, and I will be becoming until I die.
So that leads me into the Starbucks story. Didn't you have a story about when you met somebody
Oh,
at
the
Starbucks?
guy in New York. I was performing at Town Hall in New York about 4 years ago. And, you know, we get so consumed with our lives. When you walk into a coffee shop, the first thing you look for is an empty table, right? Whether you are meeting someone or not, you're looking for an empty table. And there I sat at the only empty table in Manhattan, really. And as I sat and enjoyed my coffee and my pastry of some sort, a young man walked in who was about 40 years, about 10 years younger than me. And he sat down at my table and then asked me, do you mind if I join you? It was the only available seat in Starbucks. And we forged an incredible relationship. Right then and there, we talked. I told him things I would never tell someone I thought. You ever go to the airport and you sit next to someone, you don't know them, and you tell them your whole life story? You know, how are you today? Well, I just broke up with so-and-so, you know. But we told each other things that I hadn't mentioned to anyone, not even my best friend, on that day. And he said to me at the end of the conversation, he said, well, you and I were meant to meet. I said, well, I'm performing tonight at Town Hall. Would you like to come? And he said, yes. I said, bring your wife or your girlfriend, bring someone. And they came. And we contacted one another and talked back and forth by email for a long time after that. I've lost contact with him now. But whatever was meant for him to deliver to me that day, he delivered the package that I needed. I needed to talk. And so everyone at your table or the people that you'll meet as you're leaving, hopefully they have a package to deliver to you.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. I want to talk with you, Kate, about a couple things. One is you made a mention of reading and how much of an avid reader you are, but you actually said that you're more of a peruser than a reader, which I don't know about any of you, but how many of you have purchased books and then they sit on the thing and then you get kind of slapped around by guilt because you haven't read them? And Kate talked about how she kind of gives herself permission. So if you can share a little bit about what your relationship is to reading and to new material.
Yeah. I used to basically start a book, finish a book, start a book, finish a book, right? And specifically as it related to, I think, books that you can get nuggets from, I would wait to start because I knew I didn't necessarily have time to finish. And really what I chose to start doing is I gave myself permission to just read parts of it and to just open it up and see kind of where it took you. And I would say specifically with business books, right? I mean, I would open it up and say, someone invested a lot. I need to read the entirety of this. I need to go start to finish. You finish what you start. And all of a sudden it was like, wait a minute, there are things that I can get from this, and it's better that I do part of that and gain that knowledge than it is that I don't start. And so really, changing that perspective, what it allowed me to do is just go and explore and really invest a little bit in a lot of things I might not necessarily have chosen to do.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And I want to shift gears a little bit. We've talked a lot about mentoring, and I know that you have informal and formal relationships in mentoring. Can you tell us a little bit about how you've seen those work and what you've seen when they don't work?
So for me, I look at mentoring, especially today in my life, as really a 360 experience. And what I would say is I got good and better at being a mentor before I got good at really being a mentee. And I wish I would have figured out how to be a better mentee, so how to take that in at an earlier age. Right now, I look at it and say it's a web, and I'm going to get bits and pieces from all of these different people. And it really is, I have formal people that mentor me. I also have informal relationships that I capture things from. And one of my nuggets that I pulled out was I take both from people whom I want to emulate and I feel like I have something to learn from, as well as equally from those that I do not want to emulate. And so I actually will purposefully kind of examine and look at individuals who may not represent what I want to be, recognize what's driving them, why they are really behaving the way they're behaving, and then turn that around and have it be a learning lesson. When it comes to being a mentor, one of the things that I chose to do, and it was funny because I literally had become COO of I had $200 million in revenue. And so I said to my husband, I went from being a highly invested leasee to someone who owns a mortgage when I took over that revenue. And literally every night before I went to bed, I was going through the spreadsheets and the P&L in my mind and saying, okay, how are we going to get to the next? How are we going to get to the next? And that was the time when I started to formally mentor people. And it seems like that would have been the exact opposite time to take that on. And what I said is I get so much out of giving that I need to balance and make sure that this isn't just about what is on paper and how you're going to be measured with what's on paper. You actually have to ensure that you are investing in others and creating that network and that family.
Mm-hmm. And another thing we spoke about on the phone is talk about exit strategy and having more boundaries around the mentoring program.
Yeah, that was... So one of the things I do with every person that I mentor is we start with saying kind of what are your goals and objectives, but I also say, listen, there's going to be a start and there's going to be a stop, and you own this relationship, right? I'm here to help you, but ultimately what you need to do is make sure you're getting what you need out of this and that I'm getting something out of it as well. And so there will come a natural endpoint for this, and we need to embrace that as opposed to be afraid of it. Right, so it literally is I'm going to help you for a period of time, and then there's going to come a point where you say, you know what, Kate, I think I got what I got from you, right? I want to move on to someone else. Don't be embarrassed by that, right? I mean, this is a journey we're on together. I derive value from this relationship. You derive value from the relationship. Make sure that you are setting and measuring, and literally every person that I meet with, at least once a quarter, I sit down and say, are you getting what you want, right? Is this good for you? And if it isn't, let's move on.
Yeah, that's great. And I think that's important for all of us when we're establishing these kind of more formal relationships, is the exit strategy being done in a respectful, integrous way where we can part in a clean way, in a good way, as opposed to things that get tendrils of ick. That's technical. So let's talk a little bit about, we see a lot of all different generations in the audience, and the younger, I don't know if you saw that we had junior high girls giving us the bags this morning, and of course we saw Amanda. So let's talk about this new generation. What can you say, Kate, as your, if you were sitting down one-on-one with a new woman in leadership, brand new, who really had big desires, but she has yet to, carve the path, what would be some advice you'd give her?
Embrace your vulnerability. So we're all not good at everything. And I can tell you, fear is not even the right word. I was terrified at not being good at everything. And it literally was what I considered for myself to be a dismal failure, where I had set myself, I had been on a path and I said, I'm going to get this job, and they ended up giving the job to someone else. And not only did I not think they were the right person for the job, I considered it to, kind of be this root failure. And I was so desperately, I essentially went into a tailspin for 6 months. And I came out the other side of that, and I said, okay, let me examine what happened here. And the reality was, it was not the right job for me, and I would have not done the best job I could be there, because I was trying to be something I wasn't naturally good at. So, I'm a firm believer in nurture and nature. And for me, it is, I embrace what I am naturally good at. I understand what I'm not good at, and I will nurture and I will drive myself towards it. But I also give myself a different set of standards for those things that I'm not, I would say naturally inclined to be good at. And so I embrace that vulnerability. When I fail, when I have a challenge, I literally say, guess what? I just really messed that one up. Yeah. And it is verbalizing it first to myself and then verbalizing it to others, and having the courage to say, hey, I'm not really good at this. Could you help me?
Yeah, excellent advice. Jearlyn, advice for the newbies.
Gosh, I have so many on my mind, but I think for me, and that was brilliant. It's so true. It's so true. I think it would be that in order for us as women to get to where we're trying to go, the more of us that are on board to go forward, the better. So I don't care how young you are or how old you are, help somebody get there. Everything I do, to me, is for naught if I don't reach and help someone else. Not reach down, reach sideways, reach up, whatever I have to do to help them get to the next step, like others like you are helping me get to the next step. As a collective, we are far more powerful than we are as individuals. So this room is just stacked to the roof with not just power. I mean, the graveyard is filled with potential, unused potential, right? So those of us in this room have an opportunity to use not only what we know to help someone else who has potential come up, but also receive some of that power from them. Take it and give it again. So if nothing else, if we're gonna move forward, we absolutely need to do it collectively.
I agree, 100%.
Jess. I completely agree with both of you. I think that every time I fail at something, I say to myself, what did I learn from this? And I just redirect my brain. Like, no, I'm not gonna have that burning feeling in me. I'm gonna have that empowering feeling. So I do that every single time. And there's no question that doing something for somebody else makes you feel like you have a better self-image. And if you have a better self-image, then you can do better work. But the secret to my success is I was not born a perfectionist. I am not a perfectionist, and I'm not an overachiever. Even though people love to say that about me, That is so far from the truth. But I have trained myself to have the ability to hyper-focus. And hyper-focus is maybe another word for discipline, but I have the ability to hyper-focus because I have trained my brain to do that. And so when there's a task in front of me, I can hyper-focus, I can get it done, and I can get it done better than the boys around me can get it done, and that makes me feel really good. Not that I'm trying to eat off their plate, because I'm not. And so I guess that would be my word of advice, is to develop that ability to focus, because it will pay off.
And let's talk a little bit more about that, because I totally agree. I think one of our biggest challenges is the fact that we've got a billion things going on, and shiny object syndrome, and there's so many things, and beep, 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 140 everywhere, that to actually get something done, you know, and you said you start every day with a list.
Right. Well, not every day, but I think that's initially what I was going to say, but then I got distracted by these amazing women. But no, so that's the thing. In terms of, like, I think this new generation, or maybe I'm even in that generation, is that there's so much distraction, and how can you ever focus your mind, which is really what we're trying to do to be successful in business, on one task and try to be the best at that task, if you've got your text, you know, your phone going off, and you've got music in the background, or you've got all these 90 million things going on. So you're right. So you have to minimize distraction so that you can actually train your brain to do what you want it to do, so you can be successful.
Yeah, and that list that you do most days really gives you that clarity of focus. This is what I'm going to do today. This is what I'm going to accomplish today. I know it's a simple concept, but it's one that we tend to lose sight of, is the very clear and relatable and doable to-do list.
No question that you're going to be more successful throughout your day if you start your day with a list, I think.
Yes, excellent. Martha, what do you recommend for the newbies that are coming up in business for women?
Well, you brought up lists, and I thrive on lists. I've been making lists for years and years and years and years, but then that list has got to be prioritized every day. And so you have to decide what is the one boiling that you really have to address right away. And the other thing I would say, too, is, along with what Kate was saying, is really know yourself. Be honest with yourself, and accept yourself for who you are. And we all have wonderful strengths and wonderful weaknesses, and sometimes those weaknesses really help you in some ways too, because you have to understand them, work harder on them, but you need to accept yourself the way you are. And you can't change who you are. Embrace yourself. And therefore, by knowing what your strengths are and your weaknesses, that's when you're going to be able to grow. I've got weaknesses, so I go, you know what, just like Kate said, you're going to need help. You're going to need help, and it's amazing how many people are around to help you, so that you can work on that weakness and make it a strength, or understand that weakness but still overcome what you need. So that would be my advice. Know yourself.
And as we wrap up this portion, I'm going to open it up, too, to the audience if anybody's got any questions. So if you want to think about it, I'll run around and ask, get your questions. Let's talk about pay equity, women making the same amount as men. Do you have any thoughts on that, and what we can do to make that a reality?
Well, I'm really excited because I see all these leaders of businesses here, and that's what I think our key role is become the leader in your business, and then demand that there is pay equity, because then you're the ones making those decisions, and insist on making sure that thing happens.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else on the panel want to address pay equity?
Infiltrate.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, infiltrate. You know, there are still so many industries that are male dominated. We're so used to seeing ourselves in the urban areas. There are rural areas, where you are not seeing women lead as much. And so infiltrate. If there is an opening and you have a certain gift or talent that could be used in that industry, and it's not going to be easy. When you're a pioneer, it's not going to be easy. But jump in with all feet and call on everybody you can think of and pray.
Kate?
I was going to say transparency and measurement. So for me, it was about putting really good practices in place. And so what we have done in the organizations that I work for is you put it all on paper, and you literally just, you take a look, and you have a set of, for each role, you have a set of what you need to accomplish, and make sure that you've got the right the right hierarchy in relationship to level 1, level 2, level 3, and that you're giving everyone the opportunity to recognize this is where you're at today, right? And measure where you're at today. This is what you need to do to get to the next level, and then you put it all on paper, and you take a look at it, and then you drive towards that point of equity based on where people are at, what skills that they have, and their own continued investment, and how they're moving themselves forward to the next level.
Excellent.
Oh, can I just say, I've been at CBS for 17 years, and I actually tell people they decided to put a little coffee in the cream at CCO, you know, because there are so few women, and there are so few women that are of color, you know, and it's not easy. I was called every name in the book when I first started at CCO. I had death threats. They had to hire security. Seriously, this is not a joke. So if we're going to get out there and really make a difference, jump in. What do you have to lose?
Yeah. So how do you think this is going to look 10 years from now when we're at this event? We're probably not going to be able to be in this event, in this venue, 10 years from now, because it'll double or triple the size. So what do you think, let's start at the very end with Martha. What do you think the landscape for women is going to look like 10 years from now in women in business?
Well, I think we've got to follow what Jearlyn was saying, and that is try and infiltrate. So therefore, you know, hopefully a lot more women in those situations so that we can see a lot more of our way of thinking in the business world.
And Jess, 10 years from now?
Yeah, well, I guess I can speak to my field.
When you're
that's
30?
all I know. Yeah. But, you know, facial plastic surgery is 18% women or something like that, maybe even lower. And there's no question, in my mind, I think that our patients are mostly women, you know, 90% women. And I think that women make better facial plastic surgeons because we know what we want our faces to look like. And I think sometimes when you see faces that you think don't look the way you would want them to, I think that there is definitely a male-dominated influence there. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've been to an academy meeting with auditoriums that are double or triple this size, and every single speaker is a guy, and every single slide they have is a face of a woman, and they talk about how to make women's faces look beautiful. And very early on in my career, or in my training, that just stood out to me. I just realized that has to change, and it will change. I think women make great surgeons and great caregivers and great doctors and things like that. And most importantly, we're not interested in what color your thong is, because I've been asked that question more than once. And so, you know, those things have to change, and they will. I think they will, the more women that go into it. So.
Yeah. Jearlyn, do you have any thoughts on what it's going to look like?
Did you say thong? What did you say? Did you say thong?
I was not wearing a thong that day.
Do they still sell those for real? That's amazing. Okay, so for me, the future is so bright because from the millennials to the Generation Z, you guys are global citizens. You were born into a global society. You have friends from all over the world. You encounter people from all over the world every day, from kindergarten to wherever you are now. Knowing that, you have so much more at your fingertips than I ever did or Martha ever did. So much more at your fingertips. Do not close your hands up and don't use it. Don't do it. We are depending on you. You are going to make decisions about my life. I look good and I want to continue to, oh, by the way, you gotta.
I did not see one wrinkle on your face. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm sitting right next to you.
Really?
You don't even have one wrinkle on your face.
Okay.
The line forms for Jess right here. Now, we only have have just a few minutes left. I think we have room for maybe two questions. Does anybody have any questions? I'm going to go 10. I'm sorry. I just looked the first one that I saw.
My question is for Martha. Martha, you had expressed your disappointment in the fact that in the 70s you had gotten the question of being a woman and, what are you doing here? And then the same questions we're still asking today. I was wondering in your business, what kind of practices have you put into place to try to eliminate that question or eliminate the need for that question? And my follow-up question is, when are you moving your booth next to the milk booth? Because I need cookies and milk together. They need to be together.
Good question.
You're absolutely right. I get that question all the time. Why aren't you over there? But as far as I do see, and I didn't mean that negative, it's just, I just do see a difference now because there are so many more of us in the leadership roles, and men have had to adapt to dealing with, both sexes, let's put it that way. But throughout the years, there was, a growing curve, let me say, with the people, and I know that many of the people that I have worked with have actually had to, they actually had classes for some of the people that I was working with, and things have changed greatly. So I really see a bright future in that, that people are understanding more and more.
Those poor men, we have to just cut them
I
some
know.
slack.
I am so sorry.
They got to figure it out. One other question. Okay.
I'm in career transition, so I can relate to what Amy was saying this morning. I've been on all those job interviews and rejection and whatnot, and I feel like I'm at a point where I could really start figuring out what I want to do. But I've heard it said before that give a man 2 goals, or a woman, man or woman, 2 goals, and you're not going to achieve either of them. And so getting to Dr. Jess's hyper-focus. But then I also get advice on, you should do something that's a passion of yours. And I already know my passions, and I don't have $100,000 saved or anything to start a new business. So I need a job for practical purposes, but how do you start a business and start pursuing the path toward that passion and dream without, getting into that, having 2 visions, and you're not going to be successful in both because you're not focused?
I think Kate, you're so good at growing things from small to big. As we had a conversation, I think you'd have some good insight on that.
What I would say is that I think you can do 2 things. You don't have to necessarily just do one, but be hyper-focused when you're doing each. So, it's funny because a lot of what I've had to do is kind of start businesses within businesses. And so you need to keep nurturing and growing what you have. Make sure that when you're there, you're focused on that you have a clear plan, that you're executing against that plan, and then give yourself the freedom and carve out time to really think about what it is you want to do next and develop plans in that area as well. So there's one of my favorite books, and I actually just recently recommended it again to someone. It's called The Leadership Pipeline. And I'd recommend everyone, it's a peruser book. If you look at the first 90 pages, you're going to get the gist of it, so you don't have to invest in, I think it's 200 pages, get through the first 90. But the whole concept of that is what allowed you to be successful to get to where you're at today isn't necessarily what you need to get to the next level. And for me, I love frameworks and I love visualizing things, and so literally it was I see the ladder in my head, and it's that this is what's next for me. So it's recognizing the skills that you're going to need to be successful in that next venture that you have, and make sure that you're building those and applying those in the job that you have today. So prepare yourself for that next step and in your own journey.
Excellent. And mentoring. Mentoring is also a wonderful opportunity for you to get that. So I would just like to say, once again, we've got Martha Rossini Olson, Dr. Jess Prischmann, Kate Bolseth, and Jearlyn Steele. Thank you all. Fabulous job. You are welcome to exit stage left. What'd you think of that? Was that good, right? And now we go, oh, we got a break, 2:45. Have a great time. We'll see you at 3 o'clock.